Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome back to 365 Days with Prophet Muhammad. Previously on 365 Days, we learned that little Muhammad lost his grandfather at the tender age of 8 and how he came to live with his uncle Abu Talib. Each week, we share stories from his blessed life. Stories of tears and hope, of being awaited with love and wisdom, and of trust that earned him the name Al-Amin. So, with that, let's begin today's stories. So, close your eyes. Listen closely. The Tears of Muhammad. The years had passed quickly. Muhammad was now 12 years. He was growing up in the loving home of his uncle. Back in the day, Abu Talib was making preparations. He was planning on going to Damascus. He loaded his camels. Abu Talib was going to sell the things he had loaded to earn some money to take care of his children. Muhammad had learned about his uncle's plan to go away and got very upset. Now, was he going to be separated from his uncle after the separation from his father, mother, and grandfather? As he thought of this, his eyes were filled with tears. While his uncle was getting ready to leave, he started crying silently. No matter how hard he tried to hide it, it did not escape his uncle's eyes. He immediately approached his dear nephew and asked, "Why are you crying, my sweet boy?" Muhammad bowed his head. He wiped his red eyes. Holding the rope of the camel that was being loaded, he responded, "Are you also going to leave me, uncle? I have neither a mother nor father. Where are you going leaving me like this?" Hearing these words from his nephew, Abu Talib's heart went out to him. How could he go leaving him with teary eyes? So he decided to take him along with him to Damascus. He told Muhammad to go and get ready. But the other uncles and aunts of Muhammad who heard this opposed it. They said, "The road is dangerous and it is really hot. You cannot take Muhammad to Damascus. He could never stand it. He could get sick." Abu Talib ignored their objections. He mounted Muhammad on the back of his camel. Both the uncle and nephew were very happy. They set out along with a crowded caravan going to the same place. Muhammad was on the back of the camel behind his uncle. The burning rays of the sun had spread everywhere. The caravan was moving sometimes smoothly, while at other times the feet of the camels would get buried in the desert sands. Beautiful silver clouds floated above them and gave shade to the caravan. A small cloud floated above the camel Muhammad was riding. The travelers didn't have a difficult time at all. They moved on easily. By the grace of Allah and for the sake of Muhammad, they were having a nice journey under the clouds. The child awaited on the way. The travelers moved slowly across the remote desert. Day and night, they traveled some distance. When they were about halfway through their journey, they became very tired. To take a break, they headed for a town of Basra where they could dismount from their camels. Basra was a nice town with a lot of trees. Its water was sweet and its weather was cool. They would take a break near the monastery in that town. There was an old monk living in this little monastery. This man of religion was the monk Bahira. Every day, he used to climb to the roof of the monastery and observe the travelers approaching. He was carefully examining every caravan. It seemed as though he was waiting for an important traveler. According to the books he was reading in the monastery, in these days the last prophet must have come to this world. The Jews too were waiting for the coming of this prophet. Bahira was very curious about him. He wanted to see that beautiful man very much. Besides, the books he read said that this prophet would go through this very monastery. It was time now. It would not be long before the coming of the traveler he was waiting. That morning, again he was on the top of the roof. Suddenly his eyes lit up. It seemed that he had found what he was looking for. The travelers appeared from far. There was a white cloud above the travelers. For a long time, Monk Bahira could not take his eyes off the cloud. The cloud was moving with the travelers. It seemed it wanted to protect someone among from them, from the burning rays of the sun. He wondered if the prophet whose name was mentioned in the book was among them. As the travelers approached, Monk Bahira became very excited. It was as if his heart would leap out of his chest. He observed them with great attention. As planned, the travelers took a break near the monastery. They had their camels drink some water. They were planning to eat and take some rest. Bahira rushed down from the roof of the monastery. He went to the travelers and invited them for a meal. This way, he could learn of everyone in the caravan. He was getting impatient about seeing the expected prophet. The travelers accepted the invitation and went in. When they were eating their meal, Bahira watched each one of them. But unfortunately, he could not find what he was looking for. The person who was described in the books was not among them. Sadly, he left the building. He looked towards the camels and he couldn't believe his eyes. The cloud was still there. Just like an umbrella, it was giving its shade to someone. He immediately came back and asked his guests if there was anyone else among them who had not come in for food. The travelers answered all together, "All of us are here. There is only a child left. He is protecting our stuff outside." Bahira said, "Please call that child to come in. I'm inviting him also for a meal." Abu Talib immediately stood up and went out to bring Muhammad ﷺ in. A while later, Muhammad came into the monastery with his uncle. Who was this? Could this be the moment he had waited for so long? Monk Bahira's eyes brightened up with happiness. What he was waiting for must have been this child. The happiness of Bahira. The monk Bahira had been able to pick out Muhammad ﷺ from among the caravan travelers. When the beautiful, shining-faced child entered, Bahira was trembling and somewhat nervous. Muhammad, being well-mannered, politely went in and sat down at a place to which they showed him. He started eating the food that was served. The monk Bahira watched him until he had finished his food. Then he quietly approached him. He wanted to get a better look at him. The child was exactly as described in the books. There was brightness in his face. The monk asked him several questions, and Muhammad ﷺ answered to the satisfaction of Bahira. Intelligence, good manners, courtesy, respect, he had all of them. The best characteristics were united in Muhammad. There was one more thing that Bahira was curious about. If there were the seal of the prophethood on his back, the monk would not have any more doubt in his mind. He asked permission from Muhammad to look at his back. Yes, the seal of prophethood was there, exactly as described in the books. He was now very sure. This child was to be the Prophet Muhammad Mustafa, who was expected all over the world. Trying to hide his excitement, he asked Abu Talib, "What relation is this child to you?" Abu Talib was afraid that someone would harm him. For this reason, he did not tell the truth. "He is my son," he said quietly. The monk was confused. This cannot be. According to what is written in the books, the child does not have a father. He must not be your child. Abu Talib believed now that no harm would come from the monk Bahira. So, this time he told the truth. "Yes, he is not my son. He is my nephew." The monk continued his questions. "What happened to his father?" Abu Talib replied, "When his mother was pregnant with him, he died." The monk shook his head approvingly. "Yes, that is also written in the book." And then he leaned over to Abu Talib's ear and whispered, "Take the child and return to your home." "Why? Has something happened?" asked Abu Talib. Bahira told him, "This child is going to be the prophet who has been expected for a very long time. According to the sacred books, he is going to be the last prophet. At this time, everywhere along the route that you are taking, he is awaited. If you take him to Damascus, they will recognize him. They might try to harm him. In my opinion, you should not stay. Take him and return to your home." Abu Talib was affected very much by the words of the monk Bahira. Of course, he didn't want any harm to come to his nephew Muhammad. He would do everything possible in order to protect him. He sold all he had right there and set out on the return journey. Both uncle and nephew returned to Makkah without going to Damascus. The monk Bahira was honored to see the one who would be the prophet as described in the books, and he was glad that he had prevented any harm from coming to him. For this reason, he was very happy. The mountain of Arafah. After the warning of the monk Bahira, Abu Talib never allowed his nephew to go out of his sight again. Wherever Muhammad ﷺ went, Abu Talib went with him. One day, the nephew and uncle had started a journey together. They were taking some stuff to sell at the fair of Zulmajaz, which was a faraway place. While on the journey, Abu Talib was very thirsty. The water that they had brought had finished. It was impossible to find any water around there. At that moment, his nephew came to his mind. He knew that where Muhammad was, there wouldn't be any hunger or thirst. With a low voice, he said, "My nephew, I'm very thirsty." Muhammad turned around and looked at him. His uncle's lips were dry. Abu Talib knew that Muhammad would want to find water very much. But here in the middle of the desert, where could he find it? Muhammad dismounted his camel and prayed to Allah. As soon as he hit the soil with his heel, water started gushing forth just like a fountain. His uncle's eyes brightened up. He looked up at his nephew in amazement. Muhammad filled the container with water and extended it to his uncle. "Here it is, my dear uncle. Take it." Abu Talib drank his fill of the water. He was not thirsty anymore. He knew that his nephew was a great person. But he believed in this one more time with a miracle that has just taken place in front of his eyes. He hugged his nephew lovingly with pride and praised him. They continued on their journey peacefully. Wherever the Prophet-to-be set foot, the water never dried up. They called it the Fountain of Arafat. For many, many hundreds of years, the Fountain of Arafah had been overflowing. Even today, the pilgrims who go there in order to perform Hajj use this water to drink and cool themselves down. They called him Muhammad al-Amin. Muhammad ﷺ was not a child anymore. During the time he passed in his uncle's house, he had become a handsome youth. He was of average height and quite tall. His hair was black, strong, thick and curly. His eyebrows were close to each other, and his eyelashes were long. The pupils of his eyes were pitch black. His features were beautiful. Muhammad ﷺ's teeth were like pearls. He always had a smile on his face, and the words he uttered were always pleasant. He wouldn't injure anyone. He would only see the best side of everything. He would think positively of life and speak so fluently. For this reason, everyone admired of him. They were fond of listening to him. Those who met him once wouldn't want to leave him. Although he had a difficult childhood, he would become an exemplary model later on for everyone. His honesty and truthfulness were legendary. As he grew older, his fame spread all over Makkah. Talk of his good manners and morals passed from mouth to mouth. He became the most trusted person in Makkah. People used to trust him with their most valuable belongings because he would properly protect the things entrusted to him. He used to help everyone. For this reason, in every heart there was a place for love of him. Everywhere they talked about him. They used to say, Muhammad would never lie. We cannot trust anyone as much as we trust him. They loved him so dearly and trusted him so much that they added another name to his name. So they called him Muhammad al-Amin. Muhammad, the trustworthy. Amin is Arabic for the person whom they trusted. It meant the person who would never lie or betray anyone. It meant always loved, always respected. It meant the person who always had beautiful things and always reminded men of beautiful things. Whether for friend or foe, Muhammad would protect everyone's life and property. His existence in the city of Makkah gave everyone a sense of safety and security. Because Muhammad's presence promised peace, love, safety, trust and truthfulness, Makkah was experiencing all of them now. From now on, he was Muhammad al-Amin of the Makkans, the most cherished flower of Makkah. Many centuries ago, there lived in Makkah a noble lady of a mature age who was famous for her virtue, kindness, and courtesy. She was always ready to help others and give to the poor and needy. She was rich too. Having been successful in business, trading in other countries, she was affectionately known to the Makkans as Queen Khadija. In those days, she needed someone to take her goods to Damascus and sell them. She needed someone truthful, hardworking, and trustworthy. But she couldn't find anyone like that. One day, Atika, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's aunt, who was her close friend, said to her, I know someone who would take care of your selling and buying of your goods. You will not be able to find anybody who is more trustworthy than him. Khadija immediately asked, Who is he? What is his name? He is my nephew, Muhammad al-Amin, said Atika. Khadija's eyes brightened. Yes, she said. I also have heard of how honest and trustworthy he is. It's a good choice. Let us meet him and hand over my goods. Muhammad was a distant relative of Khadija, but Khadija had never met him. She sent someone to invite Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to her house. She wanted to know him better. While Khadija was waiting for her guest, she became very anxious. Up till then, she had heard everyone praising him. Besides, in one of her dreams, she had been told Muhammad was going to be the last prophet. What was the reason for this dream? All day, she thought about it. She ordered the servants to clean up the house and put it in order. She also ordered her servants to welcome him properly. She was going to show great hospitality towards him. While waiting for him, Khadija was restless with excitement. Khadija found the precious gift. For days now, Khadija had been waiting for Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, about whose honesty, truthfulness, and trustworthiness she had always heard so much about. In the end, the guest she was so eager to meet arrived. As soon as they met, Khadija's heart was won over by his smiles, maturity, and courtesy. Greeting her, he asked her permission to enter. Khadija, wanting to come to the point immediately, said, "I know how truthful and dependable you are. I need someone to take my goods to Damascus and trade for me. I think that for this task, you are just the right person, and therefore I'm offering you the job." Later, she gave him a lot of information about the goods to be taken to that city. Thus, the meeting ended with an agreement. Muhammad accepted Khadija's offer of work immediately. Khadija noticed the characteristics of this special man. There was a light in his eyes, a brightness in his face, and honesty in his words. No, he could not be an ordinary man, but for now, she kept her thoughts a secret. She did not express them to anyone. She decided instead to watch patiently and think further. It seemed too good to be true. All the preparations for the journey were complete, and it was now time to leave. Muhammad was ready to take the goods to Damascus. Before the caravan started out on the journey, Khadija asked her slave Seerah to keep Muhammad company. Just before taking off, she whispered into her ear, "Do whatever Muhammad wants. Don't disobey him. Observe everything he does during the journey, and when you return, tell me everything that you have seen." Seerah listened to everything his master told him carefully. The uncles and aunts and all the other relatives of Muhammad came to see him off. It was going to be a long journey. It was going to be difficult for everyone to be separated from him for such a long time. But now it was time for him to go. So Muhammad left with other members of the caravan. The nights were so bright. It was as if the sun shining in the endless desert would make people go blind. Of course, during the daytime it was hot and even more brighter than the night. Seerah was doing everything he could to make Muhammad comfortable. After a journey of 3 months, they arrived at a town called Basra, near Damascus. A large fair had been set up there. His fellow travelers immediately opened their goods and spread them on a rug. As for Muhammad, he sat under an olive tree. Subhanallah, the life of Prophet Muhammad is filled with lessons for all of us. Today's story showed us that honesty, kindness, and trust makes a person truly beloved, just as people call him Amin. So, remember, always be truthful and trustworthy, because these are the qualities that bring you close to Allah and make Him love you and respect you. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and join us again next week for another heartwarming story from the life of Prophet Muhammad. Sleep tight.